All of these garden structures that you're seeing are wildly different. They serve different purposes and they're really awesome and really cool from the community. But something you might not realize is they're all made very similarly with a really easy design and technique that you can incorporate into your garden. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you how to do in today's video. So essentially, if you're new to MakerPipe and Conduit, we like to build things, and our community likes to build things with this steel tubing known as EMT conduit. You find it locally available off the shelf at places like Lowe's, True Value, Home Depot, different hardware and home improvement stores. And you can cut it really easily with this handheld tool. You can customize dimensions and figure out and make custom structures really simply. And then MakerPipe connectors are something that we manufacture in upstate South Carolina. They're made of steel and they're a clamp based. They rely on friction and they basically just clamp around EMT conduit and allow you to build things. And there's three main connectors that you can use to build garden structures and customize them really easily. And what I've got here is a really simple version of one that you can start out with. Let's say you've got a small area of your garden that you want to trellis some tomatoes or something like that. You can build a steel, strong and sturdy frame that's a rectangular box cube like this, all utilizing this connector, which is the MakerPipe 90-degree connector. And as you can see, it simply just functions where you have a vertical that can run continuously through the 90, and this is cool because we've seen people customize their frame where maybe this is adjust over time. So they've got it down this pole a little bit, and as their plants grow, then they can raise this up and adjust that. But really simply, you can just put it flush with the vertical, and then you've got two pieces that come out at a 90-degree angle, and you use those to make these corner connections. And I've just got 4 of those here to make this rectangle and cube here. And something to keep in mind whenever you're building structures like this is obviously because these rely on friction, if you're dealing with longer spans like this is like a 5-foot vertical, you can see it's kind of wobbly. So what you want to do is secure that to your garden bed if possible, and you can use these 1-hole straps. These work really well, where essentially they just snap. Let's just imagine this is the base of your garden bed. They just snap on. Then you can add a screw to secure that to the wood in your garden bed. We've also seen people use these hanger straps, which go around the conduit, and then you use this hole here to mount them to a flat surface. And something else that you can do, that's it requires more cost, but it's probably the strongest thing you can do, which is adding this exact same rung around the top, but just adding it on the bottom. That will add a lot of rigidity to the framework, and something you can keep in mind with all the things that we talk about in today's video, all the different techniques. You can basically mirror that on the bottom if you want to increase the overall strength and rigidity a lot. And something else too, if you have a freestanding frame, let's say you don't have a garden bed to mount to, you can add some stakes and hammer those into the ground as we've talked about, and then you can slide the verticals over top of those, and that adds some rigidity as well. But simply with this rectangular box, you can do a lot with this, and we're going to do another video where we showcase some different accessories and ways that you customize the frame, but we're just talking about the framework and the design that you can use in your garden in today's video. And essentially this design, kind of starts out, and this works really well, I would say for like a max length and a max width of say 5 or 6 feet. And if you want to add strength to this, if you're planning to have a lot of tomatoes in this small area and you want to add some strength and support, the best thing to do is always to add a vertical support whenever you're wanting to add strength to the frame. Adding another piece of conduit that goes all the way down to the base of your garden bed is going to add a lot of strength. And if you're dealing with this span of like 5 or 6 foot, the T-connector works really well because you can simply, like I just did, hook it onto this EMT, add your vertical, and move on. You don't have to do any math or figure out really anything too crazy with that. But if you do want to keep this open and you just want to add some rigidity, you can also use the MakerPipe 45-degree connector and basically add some reinforcement to the corners, where you just add this on, add an angled brace, and you can customize the dimensions of this, go down, and then have another 45 here, and you can brace that frame. But if you've got a big garden bed, you really want to expand this frame to be really wide and really long, that's the technique we're going to talk about next, and that utilizes something that we call the 180-degree connector. And this works very similarly to the 90, where in the middle you have a open spot where a piece of conduit can run continuously through it, which is what I'm going to do here. I've got a vertical that's the same length of the other ones we've got already built over there. And essentially, you use this 180 with that vertical, and then you add 2 more pieces of conduit coming out of it, just like this. And as you can see, this creates kind of a T-brace, kind of similar to what you'd see if you're building with a PVC T-connector, where you have the vertical in the middle and then the 2 pieces coming out of it at a 180-degree angle. And this is really the best way to add it kind of does two things. It adds horizontal length to your build while simultaneously adding a vertical support. So what you can do is you can take this and essentially add this to your frame here, and you can add this horizontal length and really expand this frame and also add a vertical support at the same time. So what I'm going to do is swap out this 90-degree connector with this 180, and we're going to move the 90s to the end on this end over here. And it's really just really simple, just moving those out, and we're going to extend this frame a good amount while simultaneously adding this vertical. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm just going to move these 90s so you guys can see what this looks like and how simple it is. And I think I'm just going to do it where I recommend just building on the ground when you can, but since I'm showing you guys, I'm going to kind of do it up in the air. But essentially, we're just going to take this 180 that I was just showing you with this vertical. We're going to add that there. And then we're going to tighten this here. And we're just adding that vertical to the ground. And I want to mention too that you can customize these dimensions. Like I said, how we had it set up before was really well for, like a 5 or 6 foot span. If you're going over that, like a 10 foot wide, then this works really well to kind of break up and add that length and this vertical support. Then essentially we're just going to add this other piece. Then this is the piece that extends this horizontal overall length, just like that, using the 180. And then we're just going to go back with our 90-degree connector. What did I do with it? Here's the 90-degree connector. We're going to go back with this, and we just move this out and essentially still have pretty much the exact same frame. We've just extended this horizontal span and then just added that 180. And then so I'm just going to do the same thing over here. I'm just going to take out this piece that I just put in here to show you guys. And then take off this 90, and we're just going to move this to the end, just like we just did with the other one. Just like that. And then we're just going to add the 180 the same way that we did on the other side. And tighten that there. And then we're just going to put in this 90 that we just took off, and we're going to add it to the very end and kind of cap this off. And so as you can see, we essentially just expanded this big rectangle and cube that we already had, and all it took was adding those two 180s to extend the frame. And like I said, this works really the best whenever you're making a wide structure for your garden beds and for your trellis. So now we've got this frame, not really, only took a little bit of time, and we've extended this, and now we have this long horizontal span, and we've extended that overall length. And that's a really simple way that you can do this, and you could pretty much do this forever. I mean, you could take the 90s off again, off the end, add more vertical posts with the 180s, do this to your heart's content all the way down your garden bed, and keep adding those lengths, which is really cool and a really easy way to customize and kind of get that extra strength in adding the horizontal span. Now, you might find you need even more strength. Let's say you want to add some poles going across. You've got plants down there you want to trellis to, so you want to kind of do the same thing, but also brace at the same time. And there's a connector that you can do that with really easily. It's kind of similar to the 180. This is the same piece that you'll find with the 180 here, but the difference is the 4-way connector utilizes these two pieces, and as you can see, very similar, conduit in the middle, conduit on this side, conduit on this side. The only difference is now we've got another piece that will extend and run this piece of conduit from one side to the other. And so we're going to do that next, and I'll kind of show you how that works really easily. So essentially we're just going to take off this 180 here in the middle, and I'll just leave that in place there. And then we're just going to put these together utilizing the hardware that's included. And on these, whenever I put the 4-ways together, I like to put the nuts on the inside. That's just kind of a bonus tip for you, just because it makes it easier to tighten instead of trying to get the hex wrench down in here in this corner. So you just put the nuts, and they lock in the pocket. If you're unfamiliar with MakerPipe, you just put those in there, and then you can tighten the bolt from the other side. You kind of have to hold them at first, but once you get them started, they lock in the pockets there, and you can tighten those as you go around. And then the 4-way connector is just 3 nuts and bolts. And just put that together like that. We'll get our vertical here, put the 4-way on, same way, and we'll just do it flush with the top since that's how we've got the rest of the verticals. And an important thing to keep in mind with this connector is just to make sure you tighten evenly as you go around. If you do what I just did and you tighten it too much, then that's going to open this up and make it kind of hard to, more challenging, you know, to get it even. So you just want to make sure that these kind of all tightened evenly at the same time, but works the same way as the 180. We're just going to take these cross horizontal pieces that we added in, put those in there. Now it's the same as the 180 on the other side practically, except now we just have an open spot on this other side for the cross brace that's going to go across that I took off and laid over here. And so then you just put this cross brace that we're adding inside this piece, and that's going to go to the other side. And then we're just going to tighten this all up, and then we're going to have that cross piece. And then I'm not going to just show you guys this whole construction again, but essentially that's how you do the 4-way, and that's how you do the same thing as the 180, except this time now we've got a cross support, and that's going to add a lot of rigidity to the frame and give you some customization possibilities because you could add trellis netting off of here and kind of extend this. So really easily and simply, we've extended, we went from that simple rectangle at the beginning, really easy box, and then we've added on a really simple way to add length and support, and then you take that a step further with the 4-way, and you can extend the length and add a cross support to the other side. And really with just those 3 connectors, you can build out a whole frame like this, and like I said, mirror it on the bottom for extra support. And we've seen a ton of builds in the community that utilize just this simple technique and design and made all kinds of custom structures. And then you can kind of utilize the rest of the MakerPipe system to customize. And, you know, like I said, 45-degree connectors. You find this needs more bracing, you could just add those on here and brace this frame. Or T connectors, you could add more cross supports to the other side and then trellis off of there. So lots of possibilities, but starting really simply with this design technique, customize the dimensions to your frame, you know, add the support you need and then customize it from there. Lots of possibilities. In a couple weeks, we're going to be posting another video where we show you some simple ways that you can customize this frame for trellising, greenhousing, all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for that and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.